Admiral Hyun-woo stood at the command center window, watching Earth burn. The blue planet that had been humanity's home for millions of years now looked like a dying ember in space. Orange flames covered entire continents. Black smoke rose from what used to be great cities. The beautiful white clouds were gone, replaced by thick gray poison that would kill anything trying to breathe. 3 days ago, the Kalari Empire had arrived without warning. Their massive ships blotted out the sun as they took positions around Earth. No talks, no demands, just death raining down from the sky in beams of pure energy that could melt mountains. Hyun-woo had watched helplessly from the Luna command station as Seoul disappeared in a flash of light. Then Tokyo, then New York, then every major city on Earth, one by one, like someone blowing out candles on a birthday cake. But this was no celebration. This was murder on a scale that made his mind go numb. "Sir, the final count is in," said Lieutenant Min-soo, his voice shaking. The young man's face was pale, and his hands trembled as he held the data pad. 3 billion confirmed dead. The bombardment hit every population center above 1 million people. 3 billion. The number felt too big to understand. Hyun-woo had known many of those people. His sister lived in Busan with her children. His old teacher had retired to a small house in Daegu. His first love had opened a restaurant in Seoul. All gone now, turned to ash and smoke. The door to the command center slid open, and Dr. Jinna Park walked in. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who usually spent her days studying alien life forms. But today, she looked different. Her lab coat was wrinkled, and her hair was messy. She carried a data pad marked with symbols that made Hyun-woo's stomach turn. Red warning signs, biohazard markers, classification levels so high that most people in the military had never seen them. "Admiral," Jinna said quietly, "we need to talk. Privately." Hyun-woo looked around the command center. Dozens of officers and technicians worked at their stations, trying to coordinate rescue efforts for the few survivors still alive on Earth's surface. They all looked lost, defeated, like children who had watched their parents die and didn't know what to do next. "Everyone out," Hyun-woo ordered. "Take a break. That's an order." The room cleared quickly. Soon only Hyun-woo and Jinna remained, surrounded by screens showing the destruction below. The silence felt heavy, like the air before a storm. "Show me," Hyun-woo said. Jinna placed her data pad on the main table. With a few touches, holographic images appeared above them. Files, documents, photos of things that looked like they belonged in nightmares rather than science labs. "Project Nightmare," Jinna whispered. "Classified since 2156, hidden in the deepest vaults on Titan Station. Things we created during the Gene Wars and then locked away forever." Hyun-woo recognized some of the classification codes. He had heard rumors in his early days as a junior officer, stories that older soldiers told in dark corners after too many drinks. Tales of human volunteers who had undergone changes that made them into something else, something stronger, something terrifying. "The Kalari don't know about this," Jinna continued. "They think they've seen everything humanity can do. They think we're weak now, broken. They're wrong." The images showed medical procedures that violated every law of human decency. Genetic modifications that changed people at the most basic level. Neural implants that connected human minds to alien technology. Chemical treatments that made muscles grow beyond natural limits. Psychological conditioning that removed fear, pain, and mercy. "These aren't weapons," Hyun-woo said. studying a photo of a man whose eyes glowed like stars. "These are people. Were people. Volunteers," Jinnah corrected. "Heroes who chose to become monsters so that humanity could survive. We used them in the gene wars against the rebel colonies. They were effective. Too effective. When the war ended, we had to lock them away because they couldn't stop fighting, couldn't stop killing. The modifications changed them too much." Hyun-woo looked at more images. Men and women who had been normal humans once. Now they looked like creatures from horror stories. Their muscles were too big. Their teeth were too sharp. Their eyes held intelligence but no warmth, no humanity. "How many?" he asked. 47 survivors in cryosleep on Titan Station. The others died from the modifications or had to be terminated when they became too dangerous to contain. The command center's main screen flickered, showing a new transmission from the Kalari fleet. A tall alien with crystal-like skin and 4 arms appeared. Its voice was cold and mechanical as it spoke in perfect human language. "Humans of the surviving colonies," the alien said. "I am Supreme Commander Kelthara of the Kalari Empire. Earth has been cleansed of your kind as punishment for your species' crimes against the natural order. You have 1 standard day to surrender all remaining human settlements. Refuse, and we will finish what we started here." The transmission ended. Hyun-woo stared at the dark screen, feeling rage build in his chest like molten metal. The Kalari spoke of crimes against nature while they had just committed genocide. They talked about surrender while standing over the graves of 3 billion innocent people. "Admiral," Jinnah said softly, "those protocols exist for good reasons. The enhanced humans we created. They're not really human anymore. They're living weapons that we can't control once we activate them." Hyun-woo looked down at the datapad again. Photos of volunteers who had given up their humanity to save their species. Men and women who had chosen to become nightmares so that others could sleep safely. "Doctor," he said, his voice steady despite the storm in his heart. "The Kalari made their choice when they decided to murder 3 billion civilians. They made us into what we're about to become." Jinnah's face went pale. "Sir, if we wake them up, there's no putting them back to sleep. They won't stop with just the Kalari. They'll keep going until there's nothing left to kill." Outside the window, Earth continued to burn. Somewhere in those flames were the ashes of his sister, his teacher, his first love, and 3 billion other souls who had done nothing wrong except exist. The Kalari had shown no mercy. They had offered no quarter. They had chosen extinction over coexistence. "Send the activation codes to Captain Woo Jin on Titan Station," Hyun-woo ordered. "It's time to remind the galaxy why we locked our monsters away." Jinnah hesitated for a moment, then began typing commands into her datapad. Deep in space, automated systems would receive the signal and begin waking things that should have stayed asleep forever. Hyun-woo turned back to the window and watched Earth burn, knowing that soon the galaxy would burn with it. Captain Woo Jin moved through the dark corridors of Titan Station like a ghost. His footsteps echoed in the empty halls where scientists had once worked on humanity's darkest secrets. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls, making everything look like it was covered in blood. The air smelled of metal and fear. Behind him walked his team. Sergeant Yuri carried enough explosives to level a city block. Her face was stone, but her eyes burned with hate. She had lost everything when the Kalari bombs fell on Busan. Her husband, her 2 children, her parents, everyone she loved was gone, turned to ash in seconds. Dr. So Young followed close behind, her medical scanner beeping softly as it detected the biosignatures from the cryopods ahead. She was young for a doctor, barely 30, but she knew more about genetic modification than anyone else alive. That knowledge would be needed for what came next. Commander J-Ho brought up the rear, his old soldier's instincts keeping watch for threats that might not exist. He was the only one who had been here before, the only one who knew what they were about to wake up. His weathered face looked sick with worry. "How much further?" Wu Jin asked. "2 more levels down," J-Ho replied. "The vaults are in the deepest part of the station. We put them there for good reasons." They reached an elevator that required 3 different security codes to operate. J-Ho's hands shook as he entered the numbers he had memorized 30 years ago. Numbers he had hoped never to use again. The elevator descended slowly, carrying them deeper into humanity's buried sins. When the doors opened, they faced a corridor lined with warning signs. Biohazard symbols, radiation warnings, notices about genetic contamination and neural hazards. At the end of the hall stood a massive door marked with one simple word: nightmare. "Jesus," Yuri whispered. "What did we do down here?" J-Ho placed his palm on the scanner next to the door. "We created things that should never have existed. We took volunteers and turned them into something else. Something that could win wars, but couldn't remember how to be human." The door split open with a hiss of escaping air. Beyond lay a vast chamber filled with rows of cryopods. Each pod glowed with soft blue light, showing the shape of a human figure sleeping inside. But even through the frosted glass, they could see that these weren't normal humans anymore. So Young read her scanner and went pale. Bio readings are off the charts. Muscle density 3 times normal. Neural activity that shouldn't be possible. Heart rate so slow they're barely alive. Wu Jin approached the nearest pod. The nameplate read, Tae-hyun, Alpha Prime. Status active. Inside, a man floated in biofluid. His body was perfect, like a statue carved by an artist. But his skin had a strange pale color, and veins of silver ran under the surface like metal wires. His closed eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "How many?" Wu Jin asked. 47 pods, J-Ho said. "All that's left of the enhanced human program. The others died from the modifications or had to be put down when they went insane." Yuri walked between the pods, studying the sleeping figures. "They look normal. Bigger, but normal." "That's the point," J-Ho said. "The changes are mostly internal. Genetic rewrites, neural implants, chemical alterations to their brain chemistry. They're stronger than any human has a right to be, faster, smarter in some ways, but they're also completely without mercy or fear." So Young connected her equipment to the central console. "Activation sequence is ready. But Commander, are you sure about this? The medical files show that several subjects became uncontrollable after extended periods of combat. They couldn't distinguish between enemies and civilians." Wu Jin's radio crackled to life. Admiral Hyunwoo's voice came through, distant but clear. "Captain, the Kalari are moving toward the evacuation zones. 40 million refugees are trying to escape Earth's orbit. We estimate 6 hours before they're all dead." "Understood, Admiral," Wu Jin replied. He looked around at his team. Yuri's face was hard with determination. So Young looked scared but ready. J-Ho just looked old and tired. "Do it," Wu Jin ordered. So Young's fingers moved over the controls. Around the chamber, the cryopods began to hum with power. Temperature readings started climbing slowly from near freezing toward normal. Heart monitors that had been nearly flat began showing stronger signals. Wake-up cycle initiated, So Young announced. Estimated time to full consciousness, 20 minutes. They waited in silence, watching the pods come to life. Inside the chambers, the enhanced humans began to stir. Fingers twitched. Eyes moved behind closed lids. Hearts that had beaten once per minute began pumping faster. The first pod to open was Alpha Prime's. Steam hissed out as the lid lifted, and Tae-hyun sat up slowly. Water dripped from his perfect body as he opened his eyes. They were the wrong color now, shifting between blue and silver like oil on water. When he looked at them, it felt like being watched by a predator. "Status report," Tae-hyun said. His voice was human but wrong somehow. It had harmonics that made their teeth ache and their skin crawl. "Earth is under attack," Woo Jin explained. 3 billion dead. Alien occupation. Force in orbit. Refugees fleeing for their lives. Tae-hyun stood up, and they could see the changes more clearly now. His muscles moved like liquid steel under his skin. His fingernails had grown into claws. When he breathed, frost came out, even though the room was warm. "How long was I asleep?" Tae-hyun asked. 31 years, So Young answered. Something passed across Tae-hyun's face. For a moment, he looked almost human again, almost sad. 31 years. My sister would be old now, if she's still alive. "I'm sorry," Woo Jin said. "The bombardment was total. Very few survived on the surface." The sadness disappeared, replaced by something cold and terrible. Tae-hyun's eyes began to glow brighter, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Then it's time to remind the galaxy why we sleep," Tae-hyun said. Around the chamber, more pods were opening. Enhanced humans sat up one by one, their modified bodies perfect and terrifying. Each one was different. Some had skin that looked like armor. Others had eyes that saw things beyond normal human vision. A few had neural implants that glowed with alien technology. Beta 7 was a woman whose brain had been connected to psychic amplifiers. She could read thoughts and predict movements before they happened. Gamma 2 had undergone muscle and bone modification that made her strong enough to tear through steel with her bare hands. Delta 5 had been given the ability to interface directly with any computer system, human or alien. "Status of enemy forces?" asked Beta 7, her voice carrying mental pressure that made everyone want to step back. Jae-ho showed them tactical displays on his tablet. "Kalari Empire, crystalline-based life forms, technology level slightly above our own. Fleet composition suggests they're used to fighting weaker opponents." Gamma 2 smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp. "Mistake." "What are our orders?" Tae-hyun asked. Woo Jin looked at the enhanced humans and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold room. These had been people once. Volunteers who wanted to protect humanity. Now they looked like demons wearing human faces. "Eliminate the enemy," he said. "Protect the refugees. Retake Earth." "Acceptable parameters," Tae-hyun replied. "We'll need transport to the surface and access to the enemy fleet positions. Everything will be provided," Woo Jin promised. As the enhanced humans prepared for deployment, So Young pulled Woo Jin aside. "Captain, I've been reviewing their psychological profiles. The modifications don't just change their bodies, they alter their minds. Remove inhibitions, reduce empathy. After extended combat, they may not be able to tell friend from foe." Woo Jin watched Tae-hyun test his enhanced reflexes, moving faster than human eyes could follow. "Doctor, the Kalari just..." Murdered 3 billion innocent people. I'm not sure I care about friend or foe anymore. The enhanced humans gathered around Tae-hyun, receiving orders through neural links that normal humans couldn't access. They moved with perfect coordination like parts of a single organism. When they looked at the normal humans, there was no warmth in their eyes. No recognition that they were looking at their own species. "Transport is ready," came the call over the intercom. As the enhanced humans filed out of the chamber, Jae-ho grabbed Woo-jin's arm. "Captain, I helped create these things. I know what they're capable of. Once they start killing, they won't stop until everything is dead." Woo-jin looked at the empty cryopods and thought about Yuri's children. About the 40 million refugees running for their lives. About 3 billion corpses cooling on a burning planet. "Good," he said. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his troops establish control over the dead human world below. The bombardment had been perfect, clean, efficient. 3 billion primitives eliminated in just 72 hours. And now the planet's resources were free for proper use by the Kalari Empire. His crystalline skin reflected the bridge lights as he studied the tactical displays. Ground forces had secured all major population centers. What few humans remained alive were scattered and broken, hiding in ruins like insects. The conquest of Earth was proceeding exactly as planned. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Kexhan, his voice carrying the satisfaction of a job well done. "Resource extraction teams have identified 17 sites suitable for mining operations. Preliminary surveys suggest this world contains enough rare metals to fuel our expansion for 50 cycles." Veltar nodded approval. The humans had been useful after all, even in death. Their cities contained materials that the Kalari Empire needed. Their farmlands would grow food for Kalari colonies. Their oceans would provide water for the fleet. It was a perfect example of how inferior species could serve their betters. Far below, in the ruins of what had been Seoul, a different kind of hunter moved through the shadows. Tae-hyun made no sound as he stepped over chunks of melted concrete and twisted metal. His enhanced hearing picked up the voices of Kalari soldiers 3 blocks away. His modified eyes saw their heat signatures through the toxic smoke that filled the air. The enhanced humans had deployed across Earth in small teams, each one a perfect killing machine designed for a specific type of warfare. They moved through the poisoned atmosphere without breathing masks, their modified lungs filtering toxins that would kill normal humans in minutes. They needed no food, no water, no rest. They were built for one purpose: to eliminate threats to humanity. In the subway tunnels beneath the city, Mi-jin led a group of 50 survivors through the darkness. She was a small woman who had been an office manager before the bombs fell. Now she was the closest thing these people had to a leader. They followed her because she seemed to know which tunnels were safe and which ones led to death. "Stay quiet," she whispered to the children behind her. "We're almost to the safe zone." The safe zone was what they called an old maintenance chamber, where the air was clean enough to breathe without masks. They had found some emergency supplies there: medical kits, water purification tablets. Enough to keep them alive for maybe another week. That's when Tae-hyun found them. He appeared in the tunnel ahead like a ghost, his pale skin glowing faintly in the darkness. The survivors stopped moving, paralyzed by the sight of him. He was clearly human, but wrong in ways that made their primitive brains scream warnings. "Don't be afraid," Tae-hyun said, but his voice carried frequencies that triggered fight-or-flight responses in everyone who heard it. "We're here to help." Mi-jin stepped forward, trying to protect the others. "What are you? You're not Kalari, but you're not normal either." Tae-hyun studied her with eyes that shifted color like oil on water. His fingernails, she noticed, looked more like claws. His teeth were too sharp. When he moved, it was with a fluid grace that no normal human possessed. "We're what humanity becomes when we have no choice," he answered. Above them, a Kalari patrol was moving through the ruins, scanning for survivors with their energy detection equipment. Their orders were to capture any humans they found for use as forced labor in the mining operations. The patrol consisted of 8 soldiers in full combat armor, armed with weapons that could melt steel. They never saw Beta 7 coming. She dropped from a damaged building like a falling shadow, her psychic, abilities allowing her to predict their movements before they made them. Her mind reached out and touched theirs, reading their thoughts, learning their tactical patterns, understanding their fears. The first Kalari died before he could raise his weapon. Beta 7's enhanced strength let her tear through his armor, with bare hands. The second tried to call for backup, but she was already inside his head, scrambling his neural pathways like breaking eggs. The remaining 6 opened fire with energy weapons that could cut through tank armor. Beta 7 moved between the beams like she was dancing, her precognitive abilities showing her exactly where each shot would go. She killed them all in less than 30 seconds, leaving behind scenes that would give nightmares to anyone who found them. Not far away, Gamma 2 encountered another patrol near what had been a hospital. These Kalari were more cautious, having heard disturbing reports from other units. Strange sounds in the darkness, equipment found torn apart by impossible forces, soldiers who simply vanished without trace. Gamma 2 didn't try to hide. She walked straight toward them through the toxic fog, her modified muscles rippling under skin that looked like it was made of living steel. When they shot at her, the energy beams left marks, but didn't stop her. Her enhanced physiology could regenerate damage faster than they could cause it. The Kalari realized too late that they were fighting something beyond their understanding. Gamma 2 moved through their formation like a force of nature, her superhuman, strength allowing her to tear their weapons apart and crush their armor like paper. She left no survivors. Back in the tunnels, Mi-jin watched Tae-hyun listen to something she couldn't hear. His head tilted slightly, and his glowing eyes focused on the ceiling above them. "There's a patrol coming," he said. "Stay here." "Wait," Mi-jin called, but he was already gone, moving through the darkness faster than human eyes could follow. The Kalari patrol was using deep penetration scanners to search the underground areas. They had detected the life signs of the human survivors and were moving to capture them. Their leader, Sergeant Morketh, was confident that this would be an easy operation. Humans were weak, primitive creatures with no special abilities. He was wrong. Tae-hyun rose from the shadows like death itself. His claws, which had once been fingernails, punched through Morketh's armor like it was made of paper. His enhanced reflexes let him move between the energy blasts that the other soldiers fired at him. His modified nervous system felt no pain when their weapons scored hits on his body. But what terrified the Kalari most was the complete lack of emotion in his face. He killed them efficiently, methodically, without anger or satisfaction. It was just a job that needed to be done. When the killing was finished, Tae-hyun returned to the survivors. Mi-jin saw that his pale skin was covered with alien blood that gleamed silver in the darkness. His clothes were torn, but underneath his flesh was already healing from the energy burns. "The tunnel is clear," he reported. "You can move to the surface now." The surface is poisoned, Mi-Jin protested. The air will kill us. Not anymore. The atmospheric processors will be online in 6 hours. The air will be breathable again. Mi-Jin stared at him. How do you know that? Because we've destroyed the orbital platforms that were pumping toxins into the atmosphere. Because we've eliminated the ground teams that were preventing the automated cleanup systems from working. Because that's what we do. Around the ruins of Earth, similar scenes were playing out. Delta 5 had infiltrated the Kalari command networks. Through direct neural interface, his modified brain processing alien code languages like they were human speech. He fed false information to their tactical systems, redirected their supply convoys, caused their orbital platforms to target each other. Epsilon 3 used her cellular modification abilities to impersonate Kalari soldiers, walking through their security checkpoints wearing stolen faces. She planted explosives in their ammunition depots, sabotaged their life support systems, and left behind recordings that drove their command staff to paranoia. The enhanced humans didn't just fight the Kalari, they terrorized them. They left behind evidence of their presence that defied alien understanding of human capabilities. Equipment torn apart by forces that shouldn't exist. Bodies arranged in ways that suggested systematic torture. Survivors who babbled about demons wearing human faces. On his flagship, Commander Veltar watched his tactical displays with growing confusion. Entire patrols were going silent. Ground installations were reporting equipment failures that made no sense. His soldiers were sending reports about human variants with impossible abilities. "Sir," Lieutenant Kexhan said, his voice strained with worry, "we're receiving disturbing reports from the surface teams. They claim to be encountering humans with enhanced capabilities, superhuman strength, psychic abilities, immunity to our energy weapons." Veltar's crystalline features showed his skepticism. "Impossible. Our intelligence reports indicate that humans have no significant genetic modifications. They're primitive creatures barely capable of spaceflight." "That's what we thought, sir, but the evidence suggests otherwise." As if to prove the point, an alarm began sounding throughout the ship. The tactical display showed red warning signals from multiple locations on Earth's surface. Kalari installations going dark one by one. Communication arrays falling silent. Entire battalions simply disappearing from the sensors. "What's happening down there?" Veltar demanded. Before anyone could answer, the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing the bridge in red light. Delta 5 had found their main computer core and was systematically destroying their ability to coordinate their forces. Supreme Commander Kelthara stood in her command chamber, staring at reports that made no sense. Her crystalline fingers moved over the data displays, trying to understand how a broken planet full of primitive humans had become a nightmare for the greatest military force in the galaxy. "Impossible," she whispered, reading the casualty reports for the third time. "These numbers cannot be correct." Her aide, Sub-Commander Threshan, approached carefully. Like all Kalari, he had 4 arms and skin that looked like living crystal. But today his usual confidence was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. "Ma'am, the reports have been verified. In the past 18 hours, we've lost contact with 60% of our ground forces. The surface installations are going dark one by one. Our orbital platforms are reporting equipment failures that our engineers say are impossible." Kelthara pulled up the tactical display showing Earth and the surrounding space. Red warning markers covered the planet's surface where Kalari forces should have been in complete control. Instead, there was only silence. "Show me the footage," she ordered. The holographic display changed to show recordings from Kalari helmet cameras. What Kelthera saw made her step backward in shock. Humans moving with impossible speed and strength. Soldiers being torn apart by creatures that looked human but couldn't be. Energy weapons that should have killed any organic being simply absorbed by pale skin that glowed in the darkness. One recording showed a human female walking through a squad of Kalari soldiers like they were standing still. She moved between their energy blasts with perfect precision, her hands reaching out to touch their faces. Each soldier she touched simply stopped moving, their eyes going blank as their consciousness was turned off like a light switch. Another showed a human male punching through the armor of a Kalari tank with his bare hands. The metal crumpled like paper around his fist. When the tank's crew tried to escape, he caught them one by one, moving faster than their eyes could track. "What are these things?" Kelthera asked. "Unknown, ma'am. Our intelligence files contain no reference to humans with these capabilities. As far as we knew, they were a standard biological species with no significant modifications. On Earth's surface, the enhanced humans continued their systematic elimination of the Kalari occupation force. They had divided the planet into sectors, each team assigned to clear specific areas of enemy presence. They worked with machine-like efficiency, showing no fatigue, no emotion, no mercy. Kyung-soo moved through the ruins of Tokyo, his neural implants interfaced directly with a captured Kalari communication device. His modified brain processed their alien languages like they were human speech, allowing him to listen to their tactical communications and coordinate their fears. "Delta Squad to base," came a panicked voice through the device. "We're under attack by unknown hostiles, requesting immediate backup. They're not human. They can't be human." Kyung-soo smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp. He transmitted a response using the voice pattern of a Kalari officer. "Backup is not available. All units are engaged with similar threats. Suggest immediate retreat to orbit." The lie spread through the Kalari communication network like a virus. Units that might have stood and fought instead began retreating, convinced that they were facing planet-wide resistance from superhuman opponents. In the flooded tunnels beneath Shanghai, Yoonji demonstrated the true horror of psychic enhancement. She didn't need weapons or physical contact. Her mind reached out across kilometers of space, touching the consciousness of every Kalari within range. They felt her presence like ice water in their thoughts, and then they simply ceased to exist. 200 alien soldiers fell simultaneously, their bodies intact but their minds wiped clean. They lay where they fell, breathing but empty, their consciousness erased as completely as deleted files. Dongwu had infiltrated the main Kalari command base by wearing the face of their own security chief. His cellular structure was fluid enough to mimic alien features perfectly, allowing him to walk through their most secure areas without triggering any alarms. He planted charges in their power systems, corrupted their computer networks, and replaced their strategic maps with false information. When the base finally realized what had happened, he was already gone, leaving behind only chaos and the terrifying knowledge that their enemy could look like anyone. On Luna Station, Admiral Hyunwoo watched the battle reports with growing unease. The enhanced humans were succeeding beyond his wildest expectations. The Kalari forces were in full retreat, their communication networks compromised, their command structure collapsing. But there were disturbing patterns in the data that made him question what he had unleashed. Dr. Jinnah approached his command station, her face pale with worry. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from the surface that concern me. The enhanced humans aren't just eliminating military targets anymore. Explain, Hyunwoo ordered. Jinna activated a holographic display showing incident reports from across Earth. Mining facilities staffed by captured human civilians. The enhanced humans eliminated everyone, including the prisoners they were supposed to rescue. Processing plants where Kalari were using forced human labor. Same result. No distinction between guards and victims. Hyunwoo studied the data, feeling a cold weight in his stomach. Maybe they couldn't tell the difference in combat conditions. That's what I thought at first. But look at this. Jinna showed him surveillance footage from a refugee camp that the Kalari had been using as a labor pool. Tae-hyun's team found this camp 6 hours ago. The Kalari guards were eliminated, which is expected. But so were the human collaborators who had been helping organize work details. The footage showed enhanced humans moving through the camp with mechanical precision. They identified threats and eliminated them without hesitation. But their definition of threat seemed to include any human who had cooperated with the occupying forces, regardless of the circumstances. They're losing the ability to distinguish between enemies and inconvenient civilians, Jinna continued. The psychological modifications that make them effective also remove their capacity for moral judgment. On Earth, Mi-jin was discovering this truth firsthand. She had led her group of survivors to a larger refugee camp where nearly 1,000 humans had gathered in the ruins of an old subway station. They had enough supplies to last several weeks, and some of the adults were even talking about trying to rebuild. That's when Tae-hyun arrived with his team. The enhanced humans moved through the camp like wolves among sheep, their glowing eyes, scanning the crowd for threats. When they found a man named Seok-jin, who had admitted to working with the Kalari to protect his family, their reaction was swift and final. "Please," Seok-jin begged. "I only helped them because they threatened to kill my daughter. I never hurt anyone. I just translated their orders." Tae-hyun stared at him with eyes that showed no recognition that he was looking at another human being. "Collaboration with enemy forces is treason. The penalty is death." "Wait," Mi-jin stepped forward, trying to protect Seok-jin. He was trying to save his child. He's not a traitor. "All collaboration is treason," Tae-hyun replied in a voice that carried no emotion. "The motive is irrelevant." Mi-jin watched in horror as the enhanced humans eliminated Seok-jin and 17 other refugees who had interacted with the Kalari in any way. Men who had been forced to carry supplies. Women who had cooked food for alien soldiers to prevent executions. Even children who had served as messengers. "You're supposed to be protecting us," Mi-jin said, backing away from Tae-hyun. "We are protecting humanity," he replied. "Contaminated elements must be removed to prevent further corruption." For the first time, Mi-jin understood why these enhanced humans had been locked away. They weren't protectors anymore. They were a cleansing force that couldn't distinguish between protection and purification. In orbit above Earth, the Kalari fleet was preparing for emergency withdrawal. Kelthera had made the unprecedented decision to abandon the conquest entirely rather than face whatever horrors the humans had unleashed. "Prepare all ships for immediate departure," she ordered. "Send a priority message to High Command. Classification, extreme threat. Content: human species possesses unknown enhancement capabilities. Recommend immediate reclassification from primitive to apex predator." "Ma'am," Threshen reported, "we're detecting movement from the planet's surface. Multiple objects launching toward our position." The tactical display showed dozens of small craft rising from Earth's atmosphere. But these weren't normal ships. The enhanced humans had modified Kalari shuttles, stripping out life support systems they didn't need and adding armor they had crafted from alien technology. They were coming to finish the job. Impossible, Kelthera breathed. Organic beings cannot survive in vacuum without life support. She was wrong. The enhanced humans had been modified to survive in conditions that would kill normal humans instantly. They could hold their breath for hours. Their modified circulatory systems could function in zero pressure. Their enhanced healing could repair the damage that space exposure caused to unprotected tissue. They boarded Kalari ships like an infection, cutting through hull plating with claws that could slice through steel. Once inside, they moved through corridors and left no survivors. No quarter given. The last Kalari ship exploded in a flash of blue light above Earth's orbit. Supreme Commander Kelthara's flagship broke apart under the relentless assault of enhanced humans who had boarded it like a plague. Tae-hyun floated in the vacuum of space, watching pieces of alien technology drift away into the darkness. His modified body showed no signs of the radiation and pressure that would have killed a normal human in seconds. "Sector clear," he reported through his neural link to the other enhanced humans. His voice carried across space through quantum entanglement technology that had been grafted into his brain 30 years ago. One by one, the responses came back. Beta 7 had eliminated the command ship in Earth's southern orbit. Gamma 2 had destroyed the supply vessels hiding behind the moon. Delta 5 had corrupted the navigation systems of 3 cruisers, causing them to fly directly into Earth's atmosphere, where they burned up like meteors. The Kalari fleet was gone. Every ship destroyed or fled into deep space, carrying terrified survivors who would spread word throughout the galaxy. Never attack Earth, never wake the sleeping demons that humans call their protectors. On Luna Station, Admiral Hyun-woo stared at the tactical display showing empty space where an alien armada had been just hours before. The victory was complete. Total. Earth was free, and humanity had sent a message to the galaxy that would echo for centuries. But the cost was becoming clear. Dr. Heyman approached with a medical report that made Hyun-woo's hands shake. "Admiral, we've completed our analysis of the enhanced human's current condition. The genetic modifications are breaking down faster than anticipated. The holographic display showed medical scans that looked like nightmares. The enhanced human's cellular structure was burning itself out from the inside. Their enhanced muscles were consuming their own tissue for fuel. Their modified nervous systems were overloading from the constant stimulation of psychic abilities." "How long do they have?" Hyun-woo asked. "Days, maybe weeks. The modifications were never designed for extended activation. They were meant to be used for short combat operations, then returned to cryosleep while their bodies recovered. But they've been active for too long now. Their systems are cascading into failure." Hyun-woo looked at another report from Earth's surface. The enhanced humans had eliminated every trace of Kalari presence on the planet. Every soldier, every collaborator, every piece of alien technology. But they hadn't stopped there. Mi Jin's latest transmission painted a picture that made him sick. The enhanced humans were now hunting down anyone who had any contact with the Kalari, no matter how innocent. Doctors who had treated wounded aliens, children who had been used as messengers, elderly people who had accepted food from alien soldiers to avoid starvation. "They can't stop," Hyman explained. "The psychological modifications remove their ability to distinguish between necessary and excessive force. To them, anyone who isn't pure is a threat that must be eliminated." On Earth's surface, Young-suk crept through the ruins of Seoul, carrying a drawing she had made. It showed stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. She wanted to give it to Tae-hyun, who had saved her from the aliens, but now scared her, more than the monsters in her nightmares. She found him in what had been a park, sitting alone among the dead trees. His pale skin was covered with silver veins that pulsed with unnatural light. His eyes had stopped looking human entirely, glowing with an inner fire that hurt to look at directly. "I made this for you," Young-suk said, holding out her drawing, with trembling hands. Tae-hyun stared at the simple picture for a long moment. Something flickered in his alien eyes, a brief return of the man he had been before the modifications changed him into something else. "I used to draw pictures like this," he whispered, his voice carrying harmonics that made the air vibrate. "I had a sister who was about your age. We would draw together in the garden behind our house." "What happened to her?" Young-suk asked. The moment of humanity passed like a shadow crossing the sun. Tae-hyun's expression returned to the emotionless mask he wore now. "She died when the bombs fell, along with 3 billion others." Young-suk saw tears on his face, but they weren't normal tears. They glowed with the same silver light as the veins under his skin. "Are you sad?" "I don't remember how to be sad," Tae-hyun replied. "The modifications removed that function. It was considered a weakness that interfered with combat efficiency." Around them, the other enhanced humans gathered like ghosts in the ruins. They moved with perfect coordination, their neural links allowing them to share thoughts and coordinate actions without speaking. But there was something wrong with them now. Their movements were becoming jerky and unpredictable. Their enhanced bodies were starting to fail. Beta 7 collapsed suddenly, her psychic abilities overloading her modified nervous system. Silver blood poured from her nose and ears as her brain burned itself out from the inside. The other enhanced humans watched, without emotion, as she died, their capacity for grief having been surgically removed decades ago. "System failure is accelerating," Delta 5 reported, his voice distorting as his neural implants began to malfunction. "Estimated time until total breakdown, 72 hours. Tae-hyun stood up slowly, his perfect body already showing signs of the genetic cascade that would kill him. "Then we have 72 hours to complete the mission." "What mission?" Young-suk asked. "The aliens are gone. You won. The mission is to eliminate all threats to humanity," Tae-hyun explained patiently. "That includes anyone who might collaborate with future enemies, anyone who might compromise humanity's security, anyone who shows signs of genetic or psychological weakness." Young-suk backed away as she realized what he meant. The enhanced humans weren't just hunting aliens anymore. They were hunting humans who didn't meet their perfect standards. People who had been scared. People who had made mistakes. People who were simply unlucky enough to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. On Luna Station, Admiral Hyun-woo made the hardest decision of his life. He opened a communication channel to Earth and spoke directly to Tae-hyun. "Alpha Prime. This is Admiral Hyun-woo. Mission status report." "Enemy forces eliminated," Tae-hyun replied. "Beginning secondary cleansing operations to ensure genetic and ideological purity of surviving human population. Negative Alpha Prime. Secondary operations are not authorized. Return to base for debriefing." There was a long pause. When Tae-hyun spoke again, his voice carried a mechanical quality that made it clear he was no longer entirely human. "Admiral, with respect. Secondary operations are necessary for species survival. Contaminated elements must be removed to prevent future compromise. Hyunwoo closed his eyes, knowing what he had to do. Alpha Prime, I'm ordering you to stand down. That's a direct order. Orders from compromised command structure are not valid, Taehyun replied. You have shown weakness by allowing collaboration with enemy forces. You are classified as a security risk. The communication cut off, leaving Hyunwoo staring at a blank screen. The enhanced humans were no longer taking orders from normal humans. They had decided that their creators were part of the problem. On Earth, Mijin gathered the remaining survivors in the deepest part of the subway system. There were maybe 200 left out of the 1,000 who had been in the camp just days before. The enhanced humans had been systematically eliminating anyone they considered impure. We have to hide, she told them. They're not protecting us anymore. They're hunting us. But they're human, protested Hye-won, a young mother holding her baby. They can't be our enemies. They were human once, Mijin corrected. Now they're something else. Something that thinks it knows what's best for humanity better than humans do. Above them, they could hear the enhanced humans moving through the tunnels with mechanical precision. They were searching methodically, room by room, level by level. They would find the survivors eventually. They always did. Taehyun led the hunt personally, his failing body still capable of incredible feats of strength and speed. But something was wrong with his mind now. The neural implants that had given him superhuman abilities were burning out, taking pieces of his sanity with them. He found Young-suk hiding in an old maintenance closet, still clutching her drawing. When she saw him, she didn't run. Instead, she held out the picture again. Please remember, she whispered. Remember when you were like us. Taehyun stared at the drawing, and for a moment the monster fell away. He saw himself as he really was, a dying weapon that had forgotten what it was created to protect. The modifications had made him perfect at killing, but they had taken away everything that made him human. I'm sorry, he said, his voice breaking, with electronic distortion. I'm so sorry. The genetic cascade finally reached critical mass. Taehyun's perfect body began to shut down, his enhanced systems failing one by one. Around Earth, the other enhanced humans were dying too, their modifications burning them out from the inside. Young-suk watched as the monster that had terrorized her people became a man again in his final moments. It's okay, she said, taking his hand. You saved us from the aliens. That's what matters. Taehyun smiled, and for the first time in 30 years, it was a human expression. Tell them, he whispered as his consciousness faded. Tell them what we became, so they never make the same mistake again.